Greetings to all. I'd like to welcome all of you who are joining from different parts of the world for this LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live on the topic From Ordinary to Extraordinary. And we are having various guests joining us to share their stories, inspirations, influences, some of the learnings in their way, which help them to pivot in various spaces and in their spheres. So today, I'd like to welcome all of you and my dear guest and friend, Dr. Suyash Bhatt, who is joining us today. And he's the director of Advanced Finance and Technology and Innovation Institute. So he has different hats he wears. He's an author, especially on financial concepts, an economist who comment on various global economic events. He is an entrepreneur. He is an L&D specialist, developing financial and technology learnings for people across the globe. And it is my pleasure to welcome him. Dr. Suyash, welcome to the program From Ordinary to Extraordinary. And I like to ask with this question, how will you introduce yourself to your audience? Again, I just gave a small snippet of that, but you can just help me to elaborate some of the areas and your interests in the line of work and practice you are in.
Good afternoon, Phoebe. Thank you for this opportunity. Nice to see you again. Just to correct, it's Academy for Finance, Technology and Innovation, Director Learning Academy for Finance, Technology and Innovation, AFTI. So, yeah, to give you a brief about myself, I would say I am an academician who has a passion for teaching, and from that I shifted for I think almost a year back to training, corporate training into full time. And not that I was not doing that, but in my previous job that was one of the assignment where we both were together. And that's how I have taken up training as a full time task or as an assignment. And over a period of time, I've seen that when we I started as a faculty, and then from faculty I moved on to becoming an author. Then I also started working with news channels uh, as a as an economist, where anything happening around the world, I'd be talking about it. And I still remember, I think it's almost now 8 years that I did my first show on GST in India. That was a 1 full hour show before the GST was launched, and that's how my media presence happened. And then I think over a period of time, things fell in place, and here I am today.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Suyash. Sorry, I just missed that wordings. I was
Mhm.
just
No problem.
uh, moved my document screen to slide sideways. So sorry for that. Yeah. So I'm just curious. So we had this conversation, but last time we couldn't complete that. So there are many areas which I thought we will further explore. So one aspect which I just want to check in with you was, yes, I understand you were into the academic sector, especially in the innovation space. What was that journey like? How did you land up in that innovation space?
Right. So that's a very interesting story, because for a major part since 2000, I think 8 onwards, I was with different business schools. Though I had my own trading firm and I used to run that, but as a serious role, I think I took up academics in 2008 or 9, I think. And that was the former IDBI chairman, Mr. Narsimham, who had identified me in one of the reputed B schools in Mumbai. And then I pretty much chose finance as my stream, did my PhD. And more or less my exposure in writing books, writing articles, everything was related to finance. In 2016, I had got one opportunity to work with one of the entrepreneurship business school as a director. It was actually founded by the Yes Bank founder Rana Kapoor, and it was called as ISME, and that was Indian School of Management and Entrepreneurship. And that's how I got exposed to the world of innovation, entrepreneurship. From a finance, I started getting to know about these things. And then with my previous business school, that was one of the top business schools in Mumbai, called the V School. We had an innovation lab which was set up with MIT Media Lab. So it was there before I joined, but I was, for some reason, the director found that maybe the finance guy can turn things around. So he asked me to head that department. And I also am an engineer, so I have that understanding of what goes behind it. And that's how I got into the space of innovation. And we went through multiple iterations. And since this was with MIT Boston, they had something called as REDX, that is redesign engineering, and we had Professor Ramesh Raskar, who used to be one of the faculty in the Media Lab. Media Lab, for just for those who don't know, it's the same place where you have the Samsung cameras that you see today. They were all developed by the Media Lab, and the gentleman who was working there, and then he's currently Pranav Mistry. He's currently heading the technology division, especially for camera technology at Samsung. And so through that, I got exposed to innovation, and how this design thinking and these different mental models work. For me, it was new because in finance you deal with structured things, predictability, certainty, and in innovation you're supposed to deal with exactly opposite of that. So for me, it was a big mindset change, and it took some time, but I mean, I have this habit of taking up challenges and working towards it. So then we participated in hackathons, and we won some of them. Over a period of time, our business school, which is not supposed to do technology related stuff, also got ranked as one of the best business schools for technology in the space of technology. And that's how I learned these different aspects. Also, in a brief training that we got, I also had worked with Center for Creative Leadership, CCL, and the US team had come down to Mumbai, and they trained all of us. And that's how I got a little more fascinated about innovation, because it's really fascinating to deal with, to start with the unknown and then take people towards some kind of a ideation process, and then possibly a solution. So for me, it was a new space, but over a period of time, I learned the trick of the trade. I don't say I'm an expert of that, but I at least have was fortunate enough to get exposed to that way of training, and I have conducted multiple trainings in this field as well. Yeah.
That's interesting, and again, you always in our discussions come out with interesting thoughts and perspectives. So, I just want to so this is from the innovation perspective. Now, you also mentioned developing your skills and becoming a published author. So, may I know what was the process like? What was the trigger thought process in which you decided, okay, I can come out with, and maybe if you can share that first experiment with respect to becoming an author, where did it all began?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question. Actually, I was in academics, and then I used to teach, and I used to get very good feedback, and I was very happy with that. I got, I think, promoted as well twice or thrice. Had a good name in the Mumbai circle, and later on, I became famous faculty in my business school arena, where few papers that I authored, like For me, I had always thought that, being from an engineering background, when I see these accounting faculties teaching finance, they somehow complicate things. And then I thought, how do you simplify it? So I had written a paper on gamification. So how do you gamify and make them play, and understand? So you play Monopoly and then learn accounting concepts. So that was something interesting. And then it got picked up by many institutions across India, and that's how I came to be known as a fake faculty who tries to experiment with finance, makes it things simple. I had attended one conference at University of Nottingham Trent, and there was this faculty there who asked me that, what do you do? And then I told him all these things. So he said, so what is your body of work? And surprised to know why is he asking me this question, because I explained him what I do. So he said, no, what is your body of work? Then I mean, at that time, I just answered him something and just completed the conversation. But when I came back home, I was reflecting that what he said is true, that, maybe I may be great at doing things, but then who knows what I do? So only if it is documented somewhere, then this is of some importance. So that's how this thought of writing something came, in a structured format. And it took time because, as a faculty or as an individual, you're not so serious about putting your thoughts together, and you also have to keep in mind the audience, and then write it. So for me, the audience was the business school market, because the publisher who roped me in was a Wiley subsidiary, and Wiley was one of the top three publishers in India. So they won't sign up an author so easily. And second, if they sign up, they need some numbers. So you need to comply with certain format. So, once you write the book, then you also have to create content for practice. You also have to create solutions, case studies, and so on and so forth. So it was a comprehensive exercise. It took almost 2 years for me to go through it, but finally it came through, and it became now probably um, one of the books which is probably subscribed by 8 to 10 public universities. And I don't have a count of private universities, but at least big public universities like Mumbai University, Delhi University, Pune University, they all have subscribed to my textbook as a reference book. And that's a big thing, because if you get added in that list, you would be typically be named after those, Ashwath Damodaran and those type of authors. So it's a privilege to be in that, but it was a tough journey, and that's how it began, and then it got culminated. And then I wrote a couple of more books, I think two books. One of them was with Excel Publishers, and they were very very big in the South African market. So that was the first international kind of an exposure that I got. So that was on wealth management, and then that got subscribed as a book in University of KwaZulu, and and many other universities in South Africa, apart from India, of course. So I've worked on normally with only publishers, and so I have to take care of the publisher's interest and then write it, because if someone is putting in money, you better make sure they recover that and they also earn some of it.
Mhm. May I just ask how that connection with the publisher is created from a? It is a pivot which you are doing. What is the story behind that?
So for me, in being in a, I was in the top one of the top 10 business schools in India. So as a faculty, I was very well renowned, and generally these publishers look out for famous faculties to write something for them, because they know that if, or review chapters. So I began with reviewing chapters of big books which were probably published for, like, you have, if you have done MBA or anyone has done MBA, you would have heard of Prasanna Chandra and those books. So it started with a review of a chapter, and then gradually looking at the skill, the publishers offer you that, why don't you write an entire book for us? So that's how this opportunity came. So as a faculty from a reputed business school, you have an advantage of publishers chasing you rather than doing it other way around. So I
Mm.
did not have a challenge finding a publisher because they
Mm.
already knew me. I had a
Okay.
challenge um, putting my thoughts in a structured format because that was something which I was never used to.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So again, as a faculty, I always try to make things contemporary, to make it more relevant, more easy, more simple. Whereas when you're writing a book, you need to have a context that you build on. Now, I'll just give you an example. So when the business school that I used to deal with had a cutoff rate of 97, 95, that range. So you'll find typically people who are best in the crowd who would be joining. So they already have a certain level of understanding. So when I take a session, for me to make a presentation or to have a session which is conducted, it is not very difficult because they already are at a certain level and I just have to start from there. Whereas when you're writing a book, it may be given to an audience which is probably of varied intellectual state. So you would have to make sure that you go down to that level, explain the concept, and then bring them to a certain level where they understand these case studies. Or, I mean, imagine you created a case study and nobody could solve it. So that's, in one way, someone would say it's a very smart case study, but on as a faculty I would say it's a very stupid thing to do. Why? Because you created something which your audience cannot solve. So you should first bring up your audience to that level so that they can solve this. So for me it was a challenge to do that. And yeah, it took some time for me to understand it. So this concept of empathy and all that, which you haven't, I mean, formally nobody told me this when I was going through it. But I think in 2016 onwards, when I got exposed to these concepts, I realized that okay, maybe somewhere down the line I have done something like this, but without someone actually teaching me this. It was embedded in my process of writing a book.
Mm. So, yeah, being in the uh, way in which the reader sees the book and how that can be a process in which we can help them in their journey of learning. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that. So yeah, this is again an interesting process which you shared. Thank you for that. Now, I just like to, for example, you mentioned, and you are always and often seen in various um, television in sharing your economic as well as financial expertise. Now, what what led to that break?
So again, the benefit of being in the circle of who's who actually helped me, because while you are in Mumbai, Mumbai is supposed to be the financial capital. So everyone knows you, everyone tracks what you're doing. And I was also in a position which was a kind of you could say something which most media channels used to cover these faculties opinion, and what they, again, not everyone, but some of them who have some stature. So in my case, as I had said, my mentor was the dean at my previous business school where I used to work in. And I think I'd also posted it on LinkedIn, and he was very gracious enough to even comment on that. So when I had joined earlier, he was the one who gave the first break to me in terms of giving the opinion on the budget. So if you Google it, even today, Dr. Suyash Bhatt CNBC or Dr. Suyash Bhatt CNN, you'll get all those videos. So that's where the first presence was captured. And from there onwards, I mean, in the media circle, they always are looking out for good orator, someone who could articulate well, comment impromptu, and also does make sense in what he or she is talking. So for me, I think it was a natural thing. So I still remember my friend. I mean, she became a friend over a period of time. Her name was Chaiti, and she's now I think with India Today. And in those days, she used to cover financial news channels. So I remember I had done a 1 full hour show on demonetization, and then when she moved to CNN, we did a 1 hour show on GST. And it I mean, once you are in that circle, they introduce you to each other, and that's how one connection builds on to another. So by far, I think I've covered almost all channels. Vion is the one with whom I still work very closely, and anything happens in the world, I would be talking about the finance or economic aspect on Vion. CNBC, CNN, Z News, these are all media channels that I've worked with, and mostly finance related. And I avoid anything related to politics to be commented on. So yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
how one thing led to another, and that's how the media presence got built.
I think you highlighted the important part of the role of mentors in our journey to be extraordinary and being standing out. May I just get a bit more information? Who are some of the mentors and some of those thoughts? Again, I'm not asking you to name anyone. We may have different mentors, but some of those inspirations, some of those learnings, which you still think is influencing you as you walk the way today. So anything of that sort, if you like to share, because that may help again for our audience also who may not have thought like that. How can mentors help in our journey?
So that's a very good. Mentors actually are very important, I feel, because in a way, in my case at least, I had always a moment where I reflect upon and then move on to things, and before just judging it on my own, I gauge the environment, try to do reflection, talk to people. So at different stage, there were different set of people who came in my life. I was fortunate enough that I had them, and they really shaped things for me in my career. And not necessarily in terms of my immediate superior, or but in many cases they were just academic academic heads who were there. So in my first, I think, academic role, as I said, the former IDBI chairman was the one who really had an impact on me in terms of how ethics plays an important role, and how if you make decision based on ethics and work hard, how things pay up over a period of time. And for me, it was very important because at that time I had a parallel institution which I used to run for trading and related stuff. So, and then as I moved forward, I had this very important person, as I mentioned earlier as well, Professor Kanu Doshi sir, and he is someone who really influenced me in terms of the way things are and how you should take up or face different situations and learn from it and then move on. And also dealing with people, I was very bad at dealing with people. So I still remember he gave me my first break of taking behavioral finance session with Reliance Mutual Fund, and I think that was my first such large scale training that I did. And I was with the late Parag Parikh sir, who now, I mean, he's no more, but if you are in India, you would know Parag Parikh Mutual Fund is the one which was founded by him. So that's how the concept of value investing and all those aspects were exposed to me. Later, over a period of time, I met many people who influenced me. And then once I shifted here, I had two very important people who really influenced my thought process. One of them is a very good friend of mine. He still works in the former institution that we both used to work. And yeah, I can still, if I can name him, it's Mr. Shireen. And Shireen sir really, he's a friend, but he's also a big mentor for me. And post, I think we left the institution. I think I have had a lot of challenges in terms of dealing with the way things are. And for me, as I said, as a finance person, I always look at structured things, outcome oriented things, whereas in an entrepreneurial venture, you have to learn how to deal with uncertainty. So that's where I think you as my friend, and I think I can also say that you I mean I really bothered you a lot, and you did have a huge influence on my way of thinking in the beginning, and it shaped up a lot of decision making, dealing with things. And for me, as I said, last time, that it's as good as mentoring for me. So apart from being friend, you're also a good mentor for me, so it did help me a lot in the beginning at
Thank you, Dr.
get that
Suyash.
clarity in of thoughts, putting structure to things, and then also dealing with uncertainty. And so, I mean, even today, I think all these people that I mentioned, they are all in some way or the other still connected to me, and I do draw inspiration from them. Not that they were once, a point of time, they just influenced me, and now I'm not in touch with them. I do keep in touch with all these people, and they do influence me in terms of the way I think and the way I manage myself. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Suyash. I think what you highlighted is an important point, which our audience may also learn. Like, who are the people who might have, we think about the people who might have influenced us, and maybe getting in touch with them definitely will be um, a great opportunity to see what are some of my areas where I can grow, and probably, as Dr. Siyash mentioned, continuously in conversation, and I'm sure you may not have mentioned that they are your mentors, but you in your own mind keep them in their mentor roles and get their perspectives and thoughts. So that's fantastic information.
I would,
Now,
I would like, before we go ahead, I just wanted to add one more, if you allow me to, one
please
more
go ahead. Go ahead.
instance actually. So this was, I think, the day when we left the last organization, and I still remember the way you were, how you dealt with it. For me, it was very surprising. How can someone react in this way? And when I looked at you, I was, I mean, it took some time for me to figure out, what would be your state of mind to think like this. Because for me, it was all out of, I mean, I was in a very different state of mind, whereas you were in a very happy state and you had actually moved on. So for me, that was a big learning, that um, how can you come overcome a certain instance and then just move on and then start figuring out what next. And you were so good at it that I actually used to write down things, and whatever we discussed, I actually had a timeline that you need to have a business license, you need to have a website, you need to have this, that. So all those things I had figured it out and wrote it. So I think that example was very important for me to mention. That's why I thought I'll share that. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Suyash. Thank you for acknowledging and sharing that. Yeah, so again, we all have different mentors, different people who shape our thought process and thinking, and I acknowledge myself in that process. So, moving on to the next aspect, which again, that was some struggles which you just shared, like, for example, uh, um, struggles on what next, which all of us faces. So if you imagine that if someone is in a place where they are stuck, what shall I do? What will be your thought process for them?
So stuck as if in terms of career or in terms of
Yeah, maybe stagnation. I am not growing in my career, or maybe I took a different step, but it is not right now working. What will be the way in which you may provide them some thoughts to think about?
I think the best way of looking at it, not that I'm an expert at that, but I would say based on my experience, whenever I got stuck, I always started um, uh, taking a step back and trying to reflect as to how did this situation occur, and am I the reason for it, or is the external environment reason for it? And if I'm the reason for it, then probably I would like to work on it. And if it's the external environment, then I would like to see the power equation. Is there something which I can do to change that? If not, then you change the context. So I still remember in 2008 or 2009, there was this I think there was a saint who had come in the business school, and he was giving a story about um, how relationships are in office, and how you deal with your boss. So he gave an analogy that if there's a donkey, and if a donkey kicks you, would you feel bad, or would you blame it on your fate, that it was your bad luck that you got kicked by a donkey? And what would you learn from that? And I mean, he explained it in a very nice way, that there are workplace, there are family, there are other issues that you may have, which may feel like a humiliation, but then you have to figure out, what is it your fault, is it the other person's fault, or is it pure bad luck? And if it's maybe just bad luck, then just move on from that situation. Don't keep it in your mind, and keep keep I mean, in this analogy, you won't go and fight with the donkey, that why did you kick me? So because the donkey is unable to understand. So in the same way, when you have a context, I mean, in different situation, how would you assess it? So the problem may arise from different places. Some people who create problem are probably not even aware that they are the ones who are originators of problems. So even if you try to sit and have a conversation with them, you may end up hurting their ego rather than solving a problem, and get into a bigger trouble because of that. So you have to be very careful when you deal with people, especially, I mean, this all these most of these things happen because of either the environment that you work in, or because of your stagnant approach or way of doing things. So when you step back and reflect on it, you will definitely get a solution to how you should approach this. And yeah, and as I said, mentoring does help, because when you talk to people, you can figure out things much better, because many times when you are in the problem, you cannot see what's the impact, or why and how part of it. But when you have someone who's not in that, sharing with you or observing what you're talking, he or she would be able to give you a better perspective. Of course, it depends. I mean, you need to trust that person. The person should also have experience in doing something like this, so that's it. You have to be cautious before you take advice. Don't take advice from anybody. So
Mm,
yeah.
mm. Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is an important perspective which you shared. What the reflection part, and for example, this aspect which you shared from the analogy of the donkey concept of donkey kicking, and it doesn't understand what it is doing, and there is no point in spending time in that process. So that's very interesting from a perspective of being stuck. And what the next question is, I know you are always on continuous learning path. What are some of the trends which you are seeing from a learning perspective, and especially from a technology and AI perspective? So who are some of the thought leaders which you are following? What are some things which have been caught your interest recently?
So that's a very interesting topic, actually. I mean, when I go through these, for me, I read a lot. So from that, I figure out what's happening in the market, and how things are changing. And from an AI perspective, I think there are a lot of disruptions that are yet to come, for you could say, not only the banks, but also facilitators like you and me. So today there was this tool that was released, I think, last week or so. It is called Unido AI, Unido.ai. And what it does is, you just give a theme, and it will create music for you, a complete song for you. And I mean, for me, it was very I mean, interesting. So I just tried, typing few things, and it had different genre. And I just typed the name of, or few words of maybe possibly a song that could be created, and the genre, maybe rock or pop or what you want. And it actually created a new song with a new lyrics, new beat, and everything for me. And I was shocked looking at that, because, and it was to the precision. It's not like, proof of work or something like that. It's like, if I release it probably on a YouTube, it would be like a professional music that is created by someone. So if this is what is happening to creators or, artists, imagine what would happen to us when, like, why should someone actually sit with you and me in a classroom, and go through a training session where you have an AI which could create a much more immersive, much more engaging, much more, deeper, entertaining kind of experience for them. So maybe 4 5 years down the line, the entire L&D industry itself, I would say, that would get affected by this. So just like right now, songwriters and lyricists would get disrupted in next 2 3 years. You may see, maybe these, I mean, the entire L&D stream itself getting affected by this. So creating, especially the ones who create e-learning programs, those are the ones I would say who would get learning and development specialists who are there, creating online content or recorded content. I feel they are the ones who are going to be disrupted the most.
Mm.
But I think in terms of one-to-one training, I think there may still be some room for this to get disrupted. Maybe it may take a little bit more time, but it's all about how technology can be used. So, I mean, if this is what can happen with the technology today, imagine what could you do 5 years from now. So
Mm.
it's like I can have my own AI version which is talking and, behaving exactly the way I am. All I need to do is put all the content, and it would start delivering content on my behalf. So yeah, we don't know. It's a very, I would say, very interesting time, and we all have to evolve over a period of time to learn these new things, new techniques, and rather than resisting them, try to adopt it. So, like in my previous, in one of the assignment that I did for finance, it was for graduate program, and these young bankers, they want something interesting. So I said, I gave them a task that rather than making a boring presentation, make a interactive presentation. So first find a song which you like the most, and then find the economic problem that you would like to explain, and then try to fit these two and create a presentation for me. And to my surprise, they made, an amazing animation on euro crisis with a background song, a famous song which is there, not their own song but an actual song. And someone created with the Michael Jackson song, something called as a quantitative easing problem, and explaining that. So this is how, they, I mean, to do this, they would have learned first what is quantitative easing, understood the whole concept, then tried to relate it to the word. So for me, that process made my job easy, because all the topics that I wanted them to learn, they went through it and did it. So rather than not accepting these new tools, you can actually ask them to use these tools to learn and probably create some content, which basically would help them itself to come up with a better understanding of a problem.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Suyash. You are actually blending finance, arts in that specific innovation mindset. So thank you for bringing that. So I know we have spent almost 40 minutes flight like anything. So with this is my question. What have you changed your mind on when you look back?
Uh, I didn't get that.
What have you changed your mind? There are some things which we thought is right or wrong, but you have changed your mind on something which you think when you reflect
Yeah,
and look
so
back.
I think I was always, I was, a year back, if you ask me, I think I was always a risk averse. Uncertainty, unknown always unnerves me, being from finance and whatever, background that I have. So in last I think 1 year I have become very comfortable with unknown things and uncertainty, unknown space. So if something is too much of VUCA world doesn't affect me anymore. Otherwise, I always had plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and gearing to take on the problem. And but I think this approach helps, because when you don't have a backup plan, you will make sure that you work on plan A, because there's no plan B.
Yeah, that's a good perspectives to end these conversations. Being comfortable in uncomfortable situations,
Yeah.
and I also just like to add, having no plan is also a plan.
Mm. True.
So thank you, Dr. Suyash, for joining me. And friends, thank you. In case you have any questions, thoughts which you like to uh, get in touch with, as well as answered by Dr. Suyash, feel free to reach out. Programs on finance, technology, innovation, these are Dr. Suyash's field of expertise. And Dr. Suyash, once again, thank you. And again, my friends, please see you with another guest next time. Take care and thank you.